Welcome to another episode at Everyday Leadership. Our today's guest is Jonathan Offrey. Jonathan is the co-founder and CEO of Growth Hackers. Growth Hackers is a company that helps startups navigate growth. In our today's episode, we will talk about the common mistakes that entrepreneurs make, which I think is will be extremely beneficial for a lot of the aspirational founders. And with that, Jonathan, why don't you sort of introduce yourself at a high level and just help us understand how did you get to where you are today?
Okay, first, thanks, Pradeep, for having me today on your show. So let me quickly introduce myself and what I do. As you and your audience can hear my accent, I'm originally from France, so I have a French accent, but I don't live in France for the past, I would say, 15 years. And in the past 15 years, I worked in even more, like 18 years actually. I worked and traveled in different countries. So I used to live in the US, in the UK, in Ireland, in Spain, in Australia. And I moved to Taiwan around 10 years ago. Classic story, my wife is Taiwanese, so that's why. And during all my career in the past 15 years or so, I always worked with small and medium businesses, and I mostly helped them with whether it was sales, so digital marketing, or user acquisition, and the past few years a little bit more focused on growth hacking. And during the past 15 years, I worked with businesses and entrepreneurs for, I would say, I don't count anymore, but I would say more than 100 countries now. And help them, yeah, like usually I work from startups to medium businesses, and that's the kind of businesses I work with. So during my career, that's why this episode today is like I've seen so many mistakes that entrepreneurs do, but not only entrepreneurs. Myself, I consider myself also an entrepreneur helping the others. I did the same mistakes as well. So it's kind of like I want to share some of those mistakes with you because those mistakes are what not only first time entrepreneurs do, but also sometimes like experienced entrepreneurs. So here you go. You've got a quick overview of who I am and what I do, buddy.
No, that is super interesting. And before we sort of get into the mistakes section, can you also help us understand how do you help startups and small businesses with sales and growth and marketing? So what is it that you bring to the table?
Okay. So first, the thing is we don't have like a one size fits all kind of approach. We think, or I personally think that every startups or products or market or goals or capabilities, whatever it is unique and should be treated accordingly. So first, what we do is before we even engage with like a company, we first really study the market, the competitors, what they already did, what the market is doing, and what their goals are. And according to this, we're going to craft like a few ideas and a strategy. And we're also going to see if there's a fit between them and my experience or my team's experience, because sometimes this is just not a fit. Sometimes you can't just add every company that is out there. So we see if there's a fit, and we see if we can help them, and we create like a kind of custom or bespoke strategy, and we take it from there. So the thing is, uh, that really depends on the company itself. But usually, because of my background in startups, I usually don't focus too much on brand awareness. We focus more on user acquisition, lead generation, sales, things that kind of move the needle. So the thing is, for example, if you are like a big company, like an enterprise, we don't really we can't really help you because they don't really need direct sales or leads. They usually need brand awareness. If you are a very early stage startups, you usually what you need is product development. So it's not really where we fit. So it's kind of like if you are like a small to medium sized startup or company, that's where we can help and we can create a strategy or we can develop strategies accordingly. And we do a little bit, we do more than consulting. Because the thing is, there's so many consultants out there. They give you like tips or advice, whatever it is, and then you have to apply it. If it doesn't work, they don't take any kind of responsibility. Us, we implement the strategies what we that we recommend. So it's kind of we take ownership or responsibility if it's working or not.
Awesome. That's good to know. Um, Now let's talk about one thing that would be extremely valuable is given that you interface with so many businesses, I'm sure the insights that you bring to this show will be extremely valuable as well. Now let's talk about, what is that the first common mistakes that entrepreneurs end up doing?
Okay, like I'm not sure if there's a ranking, but there's some really important mistakes. And there's the first one. It's like building something for too long without testing the market. So it's kind of like I've met so many entrepreneurs. Usually they're more like on the tech side or the engineer side, and they're like, I don't know, a team of 8 engineers that have been in their basement for 12 months building whatever software, product, solution, whatever, and they never tested the market. And that's a huge, huge problem because the thing is they build something for themselves, kind of, but they don't know if actually anyone wants to use it or to purchase it. And that's a big mistake. So like, don't, whatever you are building, whatever problems that you're trying to solve, make sure that this problem actually exists and there's a demand for it. Like you need to validate your idea almost the first month or first 2 months of building your solution. And what I usually recommend is to use the lean startup methodology. The lean startup methodology is to try building something, test it as soon as you have, like, even before a prototype or minimum viable product or just a landing page, whatever it is, to see if you get some kind of traction. After, you can build on it. So the lean startup methodology is a great way to avoid this thing of building something. It's kind of called building something that nobody wants. You don't want to do this. You don't want, if you do this, you want to figure it out as soon as possible. You don't want to wait 12 months to figure out that you build something that nobody's interested in. So that's really a big mistake that I see quite often.
Yeah, so let's do a bit more deep dive into that about spending too much time trying to build something without really testing and iterating on it with the right audience. Now, this is an interesting problem, right? So one, how much is building? How much is too much, right? And that's one question. And then, at what point should we test it? Like, for example, let's say I want to build 10 features in a product, and let's say I went into the market, let's say after 2 features and nothing worked. And then I came back and I built the third one. It didn't work. I built the fourth one. Then it didn't work. Now, when something doesn't work, do you suggest iterating on the same feature, or you suggest trying a new feature to see which one really works? Because it is wild west and time is limited. uh, and is there a framework or anything or any specific examples uh, that you can share in terms of how can we test it in the right way?
Okay, so a few things here. First, testing it, like what you want is to get feedback as soon as possible from your target audience and from your ideal customers. So let's say, to take your example, you build like a small product, whatever it is, with two simple features. But because you're a small entrepreneur, a small startup, people are happy to help you. The thing is, like, people, like a lot of people don't want to ask for help. I don't know if they are shy or if they are ashamed, whatever it is. But it's like, if you're a Google and you ask some random people for help, nobody's going to nobody wants to help Google, pretty much. But if you're a small entrepreneur or small startup, people will be happy to help you. So directly outreach to your ideal customers and say, like, it could be on LinkedIn, on Twitter, by email, whatever the medium. And then tell them, be completely like candid and honest and say, oh, like, I'm a small entrepreneur, here's the problems that I found, I built this solution, do you want to test it for free, or what do you think? Asking for people for feedback or for help, it
Hmm.
will, like, people will be happy. Most people are happy to help entrepreneurs or help startup at the real beginning. So go out there and ask. I think there's like a famous quote from I think it was Steve Jobs, like when he was young, he outreach. I think he was, I don't know if it was IBM or HP, one of those big brands. He was like 12 years old. And he was like, oh, I just need like a old computer to do some work. And the HP CEO answered, they said, oh, here's like an old computer, I give it for free. So it's kind of like when you're small, use it as your, it's not always a disadvantage. So really go there and ask for help. People get feedback as early as you can, and people will be happy to do it. And according to this feedback, either they they like what you do is perfect, so you build on it, or whether they're not interested, but they can still give you interesting feedback, such as actually I have this problem that I don't find a solution, or there's another feature that your ideal client were thinking that you didn't think about. So ask for feedback, candid feedback directly to people. People will be happy to help you.
Awesome. Yeah. So just to conclude on that mistake, always try to get some feedback from the target audience and don't wait too long, because you might be building something random, which means you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, wasting your resources. Whatever version 1.0 that you can put together, just get it out there, give it to the people and get their feedback, so you have some insight into what's working and what's not. Um, that's awesome. And let's talk about the next one.
All right. Next one is actually it's a bit similar, but it's almost the opposite. It's like giving up too early. Like, for example, people they're going to build a product or a feature or a marketing strategy, whatever they're trying, and they try it for 2 weeks and it doesn't work. And they're like, okay, let's build something else or let's try something else. And then it doesn't work for 2 weeks and they create a new strategy. It doesn't work and they create a new feature. It's kind of like it's success never happens overnight. So it's kind of like if you're trying to find this magic bullet or this magic feature or this magic strategy or this magic product that's going to succeed overnight, it almost never happens. I'm sure you can find example where it works, but almost never happens. And I see many entrepreneurs that they keep pivoting all the time. There's like the pivots. I'll tell you, I have an experience with a startup. They were pivoting twice a week. They like on weekends they were meeting with investors or other entrepreneurs or whatever, and they on Mondays they had a new idea. And then on Thursdays, they were like, oh, let's try something else. And then the next Monday, they were trying something else. It's kind of like after 6 months, they started 25 different things, but at the end, they didn't really build anything. They didn't actually really try. So like it's important to focus on one or two things and to not give up like every other day or every other week. So things going to take time and you need to improve over time what you're doing, whether it's a product, a feature, a strategy, whatever it is. So don't give up too early and don't pivot like right and left every every other day.
That is a very interesting thing that you mentioned. And I think there is a lot to unpack there. And let me also bring an example from my first company that I did. There was this time where we were trying to, build a mobile based marketplace where we were connecting high school students with college students, right? And then it's more like a Tinder, but for college counseling. Let's say if Jonathan from France wants to get into Stanford in the US, we would start pairing you with somebody who is just like you, but is currently in Stanford. And every time you hit a match, you sort of engage in conversation. And we were, the idea was to really put together a team which will work towards getting the Jonathan in France into Stanford again. Now, there was a time where we were, you know, with a lot of the ads on Instagram, we were acquiring high school students. Obviously, acquiring college students was extremely easy because they get to make money on this app. But acquiring high school students is the difficult part. But then we would see, we would acquire about 1,000 users, and there would be a certain number in terms of how they would plateau in terms of their usage and the churn and whatnot. But then one thing we would think about is, should we give up now? Is this too soon? Or should we continue? If we continue, then we should pour more money into it, which means you're changing something and then acquiring users and trying it again. Is there a framework around when to give up on something and when to not give up on something?
Okay, to take exactly the examples that you give me, it feels like you had some kind of traction because you had acquisition, so you could acquire people, and but they were not using your app quite often, or they were churning at some point quite quickly. The conversion rate, like the retention rate, was not there yet. And there's like a framework that I like to use. It's the one. I think it's Dave McClure who invented it. Dave McClure, if I remember correctly, is like the CEO or the founder of 500 startups. This is like I would say a small Y Combinator, if you want. And the AARR metric or AAIRR framework is like activation, acquisition, retention, revenue, and referral. And the thing is, the most important is really acquisition and then retention. A lot of entrepreneurs, what they focus on is acquiring new app downloads or new users or new customers or something. But after 2 weeks, after 2 months, they leave. At the end of the day, you need to keep acquiring new customers or new users, whatever it is. And when that happens, you need to stop focusing on acquisition and you need to focus on retention. So why your users are leaving, where are they leaving? Was it because of user experience, because actually they didn't really like the app, or maybe something was too complicated or something was missing, whatever. Again, feedback is important. But using the AARR metric or AARR framework is really important. So don't only focus on acquisition, look at retention as well. It's at least as important. I would say it's even more important. So that's definitely what you should do. About now, I think you had two questions into one. Your second question was kind of like when to give up, kind of like at some point you have to give up. It's hard to tell. There's not really a perfect time when to give up, but like the thing is, it depends on your personal, I would say, your personal belief or your personal financial situation as well, like where you think it's the time to give up. But the thing is, sometimes, like, don't give up after 2 months. That's way too early, no matter what you're doing. But if after 9 months or 2 years, sometimes you can see that you are not going anywhere, it might be the time to go in another direction. So it goes a little bit with your personal kind of career or finance or whatever you do. But like I would say, try something for at least 6 to 9 months. Don't give up after 6 weeks or whatever, because there's almost no chance you're going to succeed within 2 months anyway.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, let's move on to the third, the next common mistake that entrepreneurs make.
But the next one is like market, I would say market research in a way. And it goes with two things. It goes with the target audience and the competition. And two things that are here so often, honestly. It's like everybody can use my product. So it's like everybody. It's like, and second thing, I don't have any competitors. And so the first thing is everybody can use my product. And this is a terrible mistake for a startup, because the thing is that then they're going to give me an example about Facebook, everybody use it, or Amazon, everybody use it. But the thing is, what they forget is when Facebook started, it was a platform for students in Harvard. That was a very small target audience at the beginning. Just like maybe 10,000, 20,000, I'm not quite sure how many students they have. Amazon, they were just selling books online. So it was for tech savvy, because in the end of 90s, the beginning of 2000, nobody was buying online, and for people who like reading a lot. So again, it was extremely niche, and then they expanded. So always, like, it's important to know your target audience, and then you can expand once you have developed a good product or whatever it is. So always start small, and then you can expand after. And when people say, like, everybody can use my product, maybe everybody can use your product in 5 years, but right now it's unlikely. I always give the example. It's like, okay, in the next 6 months, will my grandmother who lives in France, who doesn't have internet, is going to use your product? If not, not everybody is your target audience. Will a baby who lives, 5 years old toddler who lives in Peru, is going to use your product in the next 6 months? If not, the answer is no, not everybody is your target audience. So it's kind of like, you need to find who you want to market to, and then it will be much easier to write the right copy, the right message, be on the right place. So, for example, if your target audience is 60 plus years old people, don't go on TikTok. I mean, there's very little chance your audience is there. It's kind of like, so it's kind of, you need to know your target audience. And another thing is, as I was saying, is like, everybody, like, I don't have any competitors, and that's very worrying for me usually, because it's either you didn't even do Google search, because it's like, I mean, if I tap literally your keywords on Google, I'm sure I can find dozens of companies, big or small, doesn't matter the size, that will do the same thing or something similar. It doesn't have to be the exact same product or the exact same solution, but it's something similar. At some point, there will be your target audience. And sometimes it's true, you Google it, there's not one single search that comes with a competitor. And usually for me, it's even more worrying, because it means that there's no company in the world, no entrepreneurs, no startup, no one who wants to do what you want to do. So it means there might not be a problem. There might be no one interested in doing what you do. So that's, for me, it's even more worrying. So always know who you want to target and who your competitors are, because having competition is a positive thing, because it means first, it kind of validates your idea, it validates your market, and on top of it, you can learn from them. You can see what they're doing, you can look at their websites, their social media, whatever it is, and you can learn from them, learn even the features that they are creating or whatever. So it's having competition, like, people see it as a bad thing. It's a positive thing to have competition.
Yeah. No, you mentioned two things there, which is extremely interesting. The first one is start small and then expand in a very focused way. And I remembered this story, especially with Elon Musk. He does this often. That's his tactic. Like when he started building Teslas, and everything is so focused. Like he first started with one car and he wanted to disprove a lot of the myths around electric cars. And then he slowly, expanded the type of cars that he will be making from there. At the same time, his distribution tactic was also very focused. For example, when he first started distributing his cars, he started in California, and he only sold these cars in California, and he did not explore any other destination but focused on California, and then slowly he ventured out. But then there was another car company which is very similar in technology to Tesla at the time. The name escapes my mind, but those guys, they've had barely a prototype ready, but then they've started opening all their showrooms across the world. And you can see where Tesla is now and where that other company, which pretty much disappeared. But starting small and expanding, and as an idea, if you can really apply that, for every problem that you're solving, I think if you become a mind which tackles anything that way, I think for entrepreneurs, it can be a great advantage. Um, and the next thing and let's move on to the next mistake. And what is that? I don't know how many mistakes are we that we will be talking today,
Oh,
but what is the next common?
there's a limit in numbers. The point is, like,
Let's
there's
try to
just so
go
many.
let's try to tackle as many as possible in this show.
All right. Another problem that I see is people who think they can do everything alone, and they don't really want to work with partners or with co-founders or with employees or with freelancers, whatever. And the thing is, again, there's a quote. I think it's like you can, if you're alone, you can go fast, but if you are together, you can go far. And the thing is, you will always be limited by your own potential, by your number of hours. There's like, even if you work like Elon Musk, you're taking like, I don't know, I think he works probably 100 hours a week. He will still be limited by maximum 100 hours a week, no matter how efficient and productive he is. He will still be limited. He was not able to create Tesla or SpaceX or all the other amazing projects they created by himself. He's got amazing HR people, engineers, marketers, whatever, to help him being those amazing projects. So it's like you have to either hire or partner with people who have complementary skills also. Another thing, I think it's two mistakes in one. Some people they partner up with people who have the exact same skill, but that's a bit useless. It's like, for example, if you are an engineer who is introvert and don't partner up with another engineer who is introvert. Maybe partner with a marketer who can do all the communication and who can speak to investors or speak to customers. The other way goes also. It's like if you're like an amazing, like you can communicate really well, you're extrovert, you're amazing in marketing, maybe don't hire the exact same profile. Hire maybe someone who can build or someone who has another skill. So don't, at the beginning, it's okay to be alone, but at some point you will need people to help you, and you need people who are different than you. You don't want to have you don't want to have your twin brother with you, because that's going to be a problem, because you're going to be limited with your own potential.
No, completely. Plus one to that. Building startup is a very, very hard process, and trying to do that all by yourself as an individual is, and and a lot of the investors won't even show any interest unless you have a team to begin with. So having a team really makes a lot of sense, and complementary skills. I think they really, really bring a lot of value to the company, because then there are four people trying to make progress in four different directions, which means the chances of you really arriving at something is going to drastically improve. But yeah, that's a pretty valid point. And I personally have met a lot of the founders who want to keep all the equity to themselves and all the control to themselves. But guess what? None of them really make it anywhere. Awesome. And let's these are amazing. I hope someone will really pay attention to these things and really think through all these things before, leaving everything and starting their own company. But let's go for the next one.
Yeah, I think the next one will be a lot of about fundraising or funding. A lot of entrepreneurs think they need like a huge amount of money to start something, whatever the project is. And it might be true for some industries. Of course, if you want to start an airline company, yeah, you might need to buy a few planes and do some regulations. So I would say, yeah, if you don't have any kind of money, maybe don't start an airline company. That's going to be a huge problem. But it's like most of the companies that you can start with, especially with the rise of AI, is kind of like you can start with little to no funds. It's kind of like you can build a prototype or prototypes or like a website or a landing page with like a few $100 or maybe the help of a friend or the help of a fellow entrepreneurs, whatever. So you don't think that you need like VC funding with like $1 million minimum to actually build something. That's not true. That's not true, except again, if you want to compete with SpaceX, you might need some kind of money. But it's like most of the companies that you want to build, no matter if it's product, if it's software, or if it's services, you can start with a small amount if you are good at what you do. But then, so again, two problems into one. Then if you need fundraising for the products that you want to build or to go faster, whatever. In that case, the only thing, if you, Pradeep, or anyone in your audience has ever dealt with angel investors or VCs, the only thing they talk about is traction. They don't care about your team. They don't care about your products, except maybe if it's AI lately. But they only care about traction. What they want is to see traction. So if you go to see an investor and you tell them, "Oh, I got 10 customers last month. I have got 100 customers this month," they're going to fund you. But if you tell them, "I have an idea," yes, they're not going to fund you. There's no traction there. And traction is something that it's a KPI that makes sense as an investor. It doesn't have to be leads or sales or users sometimes. Sometimes the KPI can be unique to your product. To give you an example, the KPI of YouTube at the time, YouTube was the number of people uploading videos every day or every month, I can't remember. And then, so that was unique. The KPI was completely unique. There was no other companies who were doing it. So their KPIs were unique. And then after they changed their KPIs, such as how many people watch videos on YouTube every day. Again, it's pretty unique KPI. So those kind of KPIs can be unique, but they need to mean something. Like, for example, a KPI that doesn't mean anything is I've got 1 million followers on Instagram. It's like it doesn't mean anything except maybe if you are an influencer selling some like skincare products, that might mean something. But like besides this, it doesn't mean anything. So like followers or likes, like I have like 1 million likes on Facebook, on TikTok. Well, yeah, if you sell a B2B product, I'm not quite sure that's going to be interesting for an investor. So it's kind of like you need to have the right KPIs. You need to show traction to potential investors, and you need to understand makes the difference between vanity metrics, so followers, likes, compared to real metrics, users, sales, or other kind of KPIs.
No, absolutely. KPIs can be very, very unique to the business, and VCs are very smart. They understand if a business is scalable or not, and they're not going to believe in any story. And sometimes I get very surprised at how much emphasis people put on how to really make slides for a VC, and honestly, I don't think that really matters as much because they're going to see through all the storytelling. All that matters is data for them. They're going to be very objective, and they're going to see if the numbers are increasing, and they're going to also see if the numbers have increased from the last time if they had seen you before. And at the same time, yeah, it really depends on the business, and it's in a way it's fairly, once you're in the business of VC, you can get a feel for how to evaluate a business easily. So I would
Yeah,
say try to build something awesome than trying to really worry about what investors would be wanting from
yeah.
your end.
Actually, to jump on what you said, like when you have a deck of like let's say 10 slides, so you have a slide with the product, the solution, the problem, the team, one with the traction, one with the market share, one with they only care about the traction. Because the thing is, for example, if like tomorrow I develop like a travel app, then the
Hmm.
market, I will say, oh, this is a market of, I don't even know the size of the travel market, but it's probably like $1 trillion or even more. So as they
Hmm.
say, oh, if I only take 1% of the travel markets, I'm already like $1 billion company. Yeah, but how are you going to take the 1% of the travel market? So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, show me. So it's like, yeah, the market, of course you want to have a big market size, but like you have to show them that you can take that market.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to prove them that you have the ability to do that with data, not with the slides, not with all the fancy storytelling, but with the data. But this is awesome. So I think we should do another episode of this so we
Sounds
can
good.
do a second episode of these mistakes. I think I would recommend anyone to really listen to these things and to really keep that in mind for some time until you start applying them on a regular basis. With that, really, really appreciate you coming on the show. This was an outstandingly engaging conversation, Jonathan. And
Thank you
I'm
very
super,
much.
super grateful that you've come and gave your time to this show. Yeah, with that, would love to thank you again.
Thank you very much, Pradeep. Thank you very much.
This is